I'd like to call this meeting to order, please. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Adjustments to the agenda.
Yes, for the board's consideration, we have one addition recommended for the agenda this evening. It would be to add item 8 to new business, discussion and consideration of Chromebook lease.
First motion.
I move we add item 8 to the agenda.
I second that.
Discussion? All those in favor? Approval of minutes, July 11th.
I move to approve the minutes of the July 11th board meeting as presented.
I second that.
Discussion? All those in favor? Item E, communications and correspondence.
We had one letter of resignation, which I believe is circulating amongst the board right now, and I can address that in my report.
Thank you. Item F, public participation. None, we'll move on. Item G, administrators board reports. Mr. Clifford. First.
Good evening, Dan Clifford, principal at Ellsworth High School. So sorry, you have my board report. Sorry to bombard you with all the statistics, but every year, as you know, I like to just take a look at grades and by class and see who's doing well and who isn't, and areas that we can improve on. Some stats that I really liked was the final grades for our freshmen, and so 8.3% had a failing grade. So what that means is, I think it was actually 3 students in the freshman class had one failing grade or more. And last year, our sophomore that are going to be juniors is a very high academic class, and last year it was 13%. So this year it's 8%, and I think it's because of the BAR program that we instituted this year. Those teachers and students worked really hard with the parents, and there was a lot of communication. And I also think the Christmas or vacation schools and summer school are really helping those students. So I think what we have in place is working, and I was really excited to see the freshman data. And that's data that's going to be turned into BAR in the next couple weeks, along with some other behavior and NWEA testing and things like that. So I called one of the people on the BAR board and just to let them know what our percentage was, and he was real excited about it, Justin. So that's good data to have, and this is something that you'll get every year. The other is the habits of work grades, and if you remember, one of the things that we were looking at is being able to make up something had to be if you had a 2 or below, then we were looking at that. And so as you can see, from a 1 to a 1.9, the average for the whole school is 3.5%. So it's really low. So those are the students that are coming in and not doing anything, and sometimes are an issue in school. So it's a very low percentage. So I'm comfortable with a new policy and those statistics. And the other stat that's not on here that I know administration is proud of, Mr. Clark and myself and Mr. Frost, is we only had to replace 3 teachers this year. And that was one of my big goals when I got here. I think there was almost a complete turnover in the last 5 years of faculty and staff. And to have a good school, you have to retain those good teachers. And I feel like we're starting to do that. So just 3 this year. 2 of them were hired before the year was over. And then we had one resignation almost halfway through the summer. And we got a great candidate for that person. So we did lose some good people, but we hired some terrific people, and I'm really excited about the year. Any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you explain these percentages?
Yeah, so each one is at 100%. Okay, so if you look at quarter one, 100 through a 93, if you look at the ninth grade, so 72.24% of the freshman class got between a 93 and 100. Okay, so each one equals 100%, each category. And just like if you look at the incomplete 69 to 0 under ninth grade, 1.68% of our students received one of those, score of a 0 to a 69. That's out of 100%.
So that's
So it's only 2 students.
in all of their classes?
Yep.
One, okay,
Yep,
that makes more sense.
yep. Sorry, I could have put a,
I guess we're gonna have to talk later because
Okay.
I don't, to me, it should add to 100% and it
oh, I see,
doesn't.
every single, oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
And so I'm not quite sure, you know, if you're telling me 72% got this and the next one, 80% got this, I mean, obviously,
Mhm.
so I don't get it.
Is it that 72.2% of your freshman students in the first quarter got at least one grade of
Yes,
93 to 100?
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
And
Okay,
then-
at least one grade of that.
Yeah.
Okay, now I
Yeah.
get it. All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Dan, I have another question. What do we do with those kids that are receiving a 3 or 4 with their house? What are we doing to help those kids get to a 1 or a 2?
Well, the other way around, so the kids are getting a 1 or a 2 and they want to get a 3 or 4 on the
Right,
habits
that's
of
what I
work.
meant, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think, the after-school program has been huge for us. And so those students that aren't completing work, they're staying after school. And the way we do that is communication with parents. And so if Joey doesn't pass something in on Tuesday, not 100% of the time, but I would say 98% of the time, the teacher contacts that parent right after school and say, can Joey stay tomorrow or Thursday? And so because he missed this assignment. And so I think that's really helped. So those 4 days after school, the late bus has been huge. And like I said, the vacation school, those kids don't want to stay for vacation school. They'd rather be on vacation and obviously summer school, but they know the habits of work, you know, is part of that. Because if I broke it down, and I haven't, but if I looked at specific kids, you know, the kids that are between a 1 and a 1.9, those are the kids that are between a 0 and 69.
Yeah.
So it's the same kids. But it is a low percentage, which I'm happy about.
Right.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
At the middle school, we have lots of changes in store for the coming year. We are totally making the shift from our 0 to 100 grading practices of the past to a 1 through 4 proficiency rating for all subjects. And in each subject, there'll be standards listed under math that have been selected as kind of the key standards kids must receive a proficient grade in or exceeding the standard in. So for math, for example, parents will now see several items under the math topic that students have met or not met certain standards. So we're totally going proficiency based. What's really nice about another change that's happening is that parents and teachers and students will be able to see where they stand in a program called Jump Rope, so that the standards will be listed there and parents can see and teachers can see and kids can see, oh, I haven't met this standard yet, or I have met this standard yet. We typically want to have 3 measurements of the students meeting successfully at a proficiency level before we say they've got it, so parents can see how the progress towards that is going. We have a new math program this year. It's called Go Math. It went through a very exhaustive review process with teachers, and teachers in fact met today for middle school, making sure we know which standards are being hit where with this new program. So, and we have 3 more workshop days all about alignment with this new program coming up later in August. The habits of work, which we started last year, were rated only at report card time. Now we're going to do it at midterm and report card time, so parents can see partway through how their kid is doing, so that If there are adjustments to be made, we can hopefully get some parental help with that. And it also gives the kids feedback partway through. You need to step it up or you're doing great. Every student, for the first time ever in grade 5 through 8, will have an individual laptop. You heard Mr. Higgins mention Chromebooks. 5th and 6th will have the Chromebooks, and 7th and 8th will have the MLTI laptops. Only the MLTI laptops will go home with the students, and that's only after parents and students meet with April or one of her IT staff to get an overview of do's and don'ts and sign-offs. A new practice that's in place this year is that students can participate in 2 sports during an athletic season. They choose one as their primary sport and one as their secondary sport. And I'll be outlining that for parents probably in the newsletter and then once again at open house. In co-curricular news, we have a vacancy still for JV boys soccer. I do have now an applicant, so we should be able to fill that pretty quick. Based on a policy change, physicals now are required annually, so I remind parents to make sure their child gets their physical taken care of. Having health insurance has always been an annual responsibility, and families that don't have health insurance certainly can buy it through a school policy, or a policy offered through the school. It's not a school policy, health insurance policy. As you may know, our ball field is going to be torn apart for some drainage from the mill mall through our baseball field, so that pretty much takes out our practice field for soccer, so we'll be busing kids up to Wilson Field. So the softball field we can do some work, but we're going to need to be busing kids this fall season. Coach Lowell and Coach Pelletier for the girls soccer teams have already started kick-arounds Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 4 to 5:30 up to Wilson Field. In parent news, the first day of school is Tuesday the 5th, and our open house is Wednesday the 6th. We have 2 time frames for that, 5:30 to 6:30 for grades 5 and 6, and 6:30 to 7:30 for grades 7 and 8. Pretty good summer so far. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Mrs. Bowles?
Good evening, Amy Bowles, Director at Hancock County Technical Center. I want to congratulate all of our Bridge Year students who just completed their Bridge Year Summer Academy. Our juniors went July 31st through Wednesday, and then our seniors went that Thursday and Friday of August. I want to thank the 2 instructors who are actually both new to the Ellsworth School Department this year that actually went with our students to chaperone. Heather Ford, our new academics teacher at HCTC, went with our 20 juniors, and then our new Ellsworth High School guidance counselor went with our seniors on Thursday and Friday. The kids stayed at the dorms at EMCC, and the juniors did a variety of intro to college type activities, did some ropes course stuff. I also want to thank Scott Belarjan, who went up twice to participate with the kids and interact with them. Quite a few of them are law enforcement students, so that was actually a really great thing. Mrs. High and I went up on Wednesday to the graduation and saw the students get their official UMaine IDs, which is always a really big deal for them and their families. So that was really nice. And then our seniors that went on Thursday and Friday were on buses a lot, going all over the state of Maine, getting to see different college campuses and learning about how their Bridge Year credits would transfer to different universities in the state of Maine. You'll hear about construction, probably, I'm sure, in a few different reports this evening. HCTC looks like a bomb zone right now on the first floor. If you come into the office, you can't hardly move because our custodians have been working so hard moving everything and getting everything ready for the start of school. Our 2 classrooms that are going into the early childhood space are up. There's some last minute things that need to be done, but those are pretty much done. And are looking really nice. They're a lot larger than I thought people thought they would be. When you look at the space divvied up into 2 classrooms now, it is very, very different. It definitely changes the feel of that side of the building, but it looks fantastic. Our biomedical lab is probably going to be the end of October, it's sounding like, by the time all of the equipment gets in and installed properly. Thank you to Ken Shea for his tireless work with Russ Gray and I. Many late night emails and early morning emails and meetings with different contractors, getting that all figured out so that we have the proper ventilation for this lab, as well as plumbing and electrical work that needed to be done on that. So that's coming along nicely. We do have a plan for the first couple months of school, thanks to Dan Clifford. Biomedical will start its programming at Ellsworth High School in the fall until our lab is up and running appropriately. The biomedical kids will spend some time at HCTC the first few days so that they get the same orientation as the other students as they did last year as well. But so that they can start their curriculum, they'll start at Ellsworth High School so that they're in a lab for the start of the school year. I had the opportunity to once again attend the MACD State Directors CTE Conference. Every summer, all of the main administrators from across the state get together to talk with the Department of Ed about a lot of changes, and there has been quite a bit of legislative changes and impacts on CTE, one of which being the middle school CTE work that's being done, as well as Chapter 134 for proficiency-based. I was quite pleased because in several of the meetings, which was very clear, is that we are so far ahead of other parts of the state in our work with proficiency-based. A lot of centers and regions across the state are not at all in agreement about how CTE fits into a pathway for a proficiency-based diploma. So we are way ahead of the game compared to other places, which is really nice. Finally, first day of school for HCTC is Wednesday, September 6th. We will be sending out letters in a couple of weeks to all of our families. Our enrollment is still at 260, surprisingly. And students will be receiving letters from myself, one from Mrs. High, and then one from their program instructor, giving them start of the school year information. Our open house is Thursday, September 14th, from 6 to 7. Any questions?
So enrollment is at 260 at this point?
Yes.
And there still could be some
Yes.
attrition, but
Yes.
where, do you know where you were last year at this point?
222, I believe. And
Oh.
then by that second week of September, we were about 201. And then by the end of the year, I'd say we were about at 189, 190. So we are way ahead.
Yep.
Yeah. And we will definitely have the
Yeah.
typical 10 to 20% drop, change, moves.
Mhm.
Kids won't show up that first day. But even if we lose 20%, we're still going to be way
Yeah.
above that 200 mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting a little nervous. I'm wondering at open house where I'm going to put all the parents
Mhm.
if they all decided to come. Where would we put them all? And
Mhm.
first day of school student assembly in the AM, we're going to need to probably pull chairs out of classrooms in order to make it so that we can all meet as a school.
Yep.
So we got thinking about those little details
Yeah.
today.
But
It's a good problem to
That's
have.
doable, yeah.
Great problem to have.
Yeah, good for you.
Yep.
Great.
Any other questions?
So,
Kelly?
so where at EHS will you be, and that's not going to interfere with the classes at
There's-
EHS?
And the third floor this past year, he had a room that he turned into, it's a classroom. And that's where Sarah will be, and then she'll work during people's prep periods into the science labs that are there. So there'll be some movement when it
Nice.
comes to that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Amy Sargent? Oops, I'm sorry. I forgot Mr. McCluskey, didn't I? I'm sorry.
Is that okay?
That's fine. I apologize.
No problem, no problem. I'm Tim McCluskey, principal of elementary middle school, Ellsworth Elementary School. I just added one thing to my report that you don't have, if that's okay to include here. But I'll start, I would just want to echo what one of the other principals mentioned, our custodial crew is doing a fantastic job, especially at EEMS. And one of the things they're doing a great job with isn't just the physical labor, but the communication with me, so I can get an email out to staff to let them know this particular wing is going to be closed for the next 2 or 3 days because it's waxed. So we don't have staff coming in and then find out they can't get to their room. So that communication is really beneficial, and they're right on top of it, doing a great job. The storm damage, I'm sure that's coming up in another report, but I've been told they're continuing to look into it. Some lights that haven't worked have remarkably started to work with no particular reason. So they're kind of figuring that out. But two of the lights that didn't work that were very important were the bathroom lights right off the our main hallway there coming down towards first grade wing. Staff use that a lot, so I put on some stick-on lights so those can still be used for people, and those are working well. Hiring is nearly complete. I made a mistake here. I was talking with Mrs. Maddox today. When I wrote this report, I thought we had 2 ed tech positions left to hire, but it's actually 1. We have 1 special ed teaching position still out there to hire, and we're hoping to fill that obviously very soon. And as you know, we've hired a 2nd grade teacher this summer. We've hired 3 ed techs. They're listed there in my report. I believe you'll be considering a candidate tonight for our speech language position, so we're excited about that as well. The part that I wanted to add that I didn't put in the report is our enrollment. Just wanted to update you on our enrollment piece. So I'm keeping a very close eye on kindergarten. We're right on the cusp of bursting there, in my opinion. We've got 4 classroom teachers, and right now we have 2 classrooms at 18, 1 at 17, and 1 at 16. And Mrs. Cox told me today that she's made appointments for 3 more students coming in to register. So I don't know about you, but to me, 18 is like the top of where I really feel comfortable of being. So I've been in contact with Mr. Higgins, and we've been keeping a very close eye on that. So we'll keep you posted, and Mr. Higgins and I will continue to work together on solving whatever comes our way with those numbers. First grade through 3rd grade, we have 5 classrooms apiece right now. So in 1st grade, we have a classroom of 14, 2 15s, and 2 16s. In 2nd grade, we have a classroom of 15, 2 16s, and 2 18s. And then in 3rd grade, a classroom of 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And then our 4th grade, we're pretty full. We have 4 teachers there, 19, 2 20s, and a 22. So I think our enrollment's very healthy. It's a good problem to have, and we'll continue to monitor our kindergarten numbers. Last week, our K through 4 teachers worked for 3 days creating a scope and sequence for our ELA curriculum. They also had some vertical alignment discussions that were a very important part of their work, and those 3 days were very productive for our staff. I've had a great meeting with our new president, for our PTF president, Miranda Lambert, last week. I involved Rachel Corman Ramos in our meeting. And one of my goals coming in as the new principal, as you know, we have a fantastically enthusiastic PTF, and they just do wonderful, wonderful things. And one of my goals as the new principal is to harness that enthusiasm and kind of work with Mrs. Ramos, our curriculum coordinator, and try to kind of focus in the energy that we have in the finances that they raise, and really bring in some of the things for students that are unique and really support the curriculum efforts that we have going on. So one of those pieces is right in our backyard, and that's the Grand. And we have a new manager there, Nick Turner, I believe is his name. And he's been very enthusiastic. I know he's had meetings with Mr. Higgins, and he's had some discussions with Mrs. Ramos. So what I presented with Mrs. Lambert, our PTF president, is that he's very willing to we are one of the few schools in the area that haven't been really taking advantage of the Grand. So we wanted to take that because it's a gem of an opportunity for us. So what we're looking at doing is taking some of the funds that PTF have set aside for us and having a partnership with the Grand, where we'll be able to take all of our K through 4 students to at least one show at the Grand. I think that's extremely important for students who otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to go to that kind of an event and that kind of a venue. I think that's very fantastic for them. But the piece that digs in deeper that I'm excited about is Mr. Turner from the Grand is willing to work with us in addition to that one show and bring some performers to our school and also do some pre and post work. This is the part that excites me as your educational leader for this grade span, is to pre and post work with students where they're actually writing about some of the things that are taking place beforehand, and then following up, doing some writing, and after they've seen a performance. And to me, that's going to be very valuable support to things that are going on in the classroom. So I'm very excited about that. Actually, at our leadership meeting today, I hope Mr. Clifford doesn't mind me sharing, but when we were talking about this opportunity, he shared something about, I think you said you picked up a student because of this opportunity with the Grand, where you may have lost them to another high school, and this student did some things with the Grand in the summer and decided, Ellsworth's the place to be. So that's another positive thing. Some additional conversations that I've had with our PTF president. We haven't gotten anything solidified in this area, but there are things I'm really excited about to bring to the school. I'd like to take advantage of the Halloween time frame and do some things after school for kids there, and bring in a family dance for our K through 4 families at no cost to them. And we usually, in schools that I've done this before, it's been extremely successful, and it's just a great thing to offer some families that they don't have to worry about, bringing their wallets, and it's something PTO can fund, and it's a way to celebrate the beginning of spring. So a couple of those things are in the works, and I'm really excited to work with our PTF to provide that for our families. Parent news, the elementary school is now on Facebook. Mr. Newitt's been doing a great job over the years of posting things, and I just, when you see something going really well, I'm not afraid to copy it as long as it's legal to copy it, so I'm going to copy Mr. Newitt. And so I put out a Facebook message. Mrs. Clifford helped me with the technology piece to get my passwords and things. So you'll be seeing postings from the elementary school as well on the same Facebook page. I sent out a greeting sometime last week, and as I wrote this report, there was 1,300 hits, and now it's almost 1,500 hits. So I thought that was really exciting, and a lot of people with thumbs up on that. So I don't know if it'll be daily, but certainly weekly there'll be things posted there from the elementary school, whether it will be certainly informational pieces, pictures of kids doing things, as long as it's legal to post their picture. We'll be keeping track of that. So I think that'll be a nice addition for the elementary school and social media. Kindergarten open house is going to be Wednesday, August 30th from 4 to 5 p.m. Right after that, following that at 5, from 5 to 6 p.m., we're going to continue the tradition that was started a couple years ago with our grade 1 through 4 walkthroughs. Teachers will not be required to be there for the walkthroughs. They will be for kindergarten open house, but not for the 1 through 4 walkthroughs. And that gives families an opportunity to have students come in and show mom and dad where their classroom is, and maybe where they're going to have art, music, phys ed, things like that. And so it's not really going to be a question-answer period between teachers and families for the walkthroughs. It's just an opportunity the title really kind of gives it away. We're going to walk through the building and show you where we're going to be during our day, mom and dad. And then our grades 1 through 4 open house will be Wednesday, September 20th. In your report, it says 4:30 to 5:30, which it's going to remain that. I've added on an extra half hour from 5:30 to 6. We're going to give our proficiency-based efforts presentation to the families, probably down in the cafeteria, to kind of bring them up to speed as to what to expect from our proficiency-based perspective of what we're doing in our school. So that'll be the last half hour. Any questions?
I just want to say I'm very happy to hear that you are hoping to take the students to the Grand. I remember when the first time we went to the Grand, and it was quite an experience because a lot of children had never been part of an audience, had never been to a theater, and by the time we'd been to 5 or 6 performances, it was like taking a totally different group of children there. So I am thrilled, and I also think it's wonderful that we can have be a better part of our community by supporting the Grand as they support us also.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, I concur. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tim.
So I brought copies of my report, but I found too many typographical errors. I'll send it to you tomorrow through Teresa. Summer is in some ways my busiest time of year. I keep trying to find a way to take a few days vacation, and it's hard to do. So I'm right in the middle of trying to get the catalog together, so preparing the board report was a little bit challenging. I wanted to share a few things. We're trying something new in Ellsworth Adult Ed. We're going to have a high-set boot camp. I'm not sure about the name. We might have to change the name, but I haven't found one yet. So we're piloting a new model of providing high-set prep, offering an intensive session that's going to start on Wednesday, September 6th, and go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then all day the 5 days the following week. And during that time, people will be able to, a lot of people who come to us in the fall think that our classes are full-time, but they can't be full-time because we don't have the staffing for that because we wear so many hats. But in the beginning of the term, a lot of our students are working a lot. So I wanted to find a way to make the best use of that time. And I'm meeting with a lot of students now. And so I said, why don't we try this? And maybe some people can come. And it would be 48 hours total of instruction. And normally our classes are a couple days a week for a few hours. So this would really increase the intensity of instruction. And so if it's successful, it has the potential to be a model that we do on a regular basis a few times a year if we can figure out the staffing. But this was my start. So that workshop would start with assessing the skills that people come into our program with. And then it would have a series of topics, or I'm calling them modules, that I've designed, including reading test questions, managing your time during a test, using all the available tools, the calculators and those kinds of things, reading charts and graphs, writing an argumentative essay, so all the sort of hands-on things that you need. And then focused reading and math, reading for meaning and in-depth reading and that kind of thing. So at the end of the session, people will either be ready to take the test, because many of our students are after that much instruction, or they'll know exactly what they need to proceed. So I'm kind of excited about that. And I just am saying a shout out that this is a great time to be enrolling for fall classes, because a lot of times people think it's like starting school, but like kindergarten registration or high school registration, it's if people call now, they can meet with me as the student advisor to learn about our programs and take the assessments to prepare them for the classes. The meetings are informal, one-to-one, and confidential. And I go over everything that people need to know to get started, and as well as spending a lot of time addressing concerns that people have about past experiences and that kind of thing. Most people are a lot closer than they think to getting their high school credential. And we've gotten a lot of positive feedback. If you've attended our graduation, you know that, of the sensitivity and support that our staff provides. So this is a great time to start that conversation. I just came, I was late because somebody was taking an assessment and went over the time. So tell them to give me a call if you know anybody who's thinking about coming back to school. The other thing that I think I've talked about at meetings is this Academy of Medical Professions, but it's gotten some really great reviews. It's a program out of Brunswick, and they provide online and video conference medical courses. And we host them basically, and we've had maybe 6 people, I'm not sure exactly the number, but all of them have been very pleased with it. And so I'm a big believer in face-to-face. I feel like, teaching is a partnership and I like that, but for a lot of students that's difficult. So the video conferencing classes will happen at Ellsworth schools on a space available basis in one of the video conferencing situations. And then the online courses are are administered through this program in Brunswick. And I just met at a conference one of the women that runs the place, and she is just the kindest, most lovely person. So I encourage people to take advantage of that programming. Our fall programs are taking shape, and each year we have classes that come back by popular demand, but we always like to try a few new ones to see what people are interested in. And some of those are Acting 101. Will Stevenson, actually, he's a teacher at one of the schools, right? He's going to teach an acting class, and there's going to be a performance at the end of it, so that'll be fun. We're actually Audrey Herbest, did I say her name right? From maintenance, is teaching wreath making. Margaret Baldwin is teaching drawing the masters, so you study a period in history, look at some drawings, and then draw something in that sort of genre or that period. Mahjong, there's going to be a class in the game of Mahjong. A mindfulness series that sort of leads you up to Christmas, de-stress before Christmas. And a public speaking class given by a guy who has a long history as a teacher, but also he was on the Bob Newhart show, one of a key person in the Bob Newhart show for the first couple seasons. Stephen Campman, who is a colorful and fun guy, and he's teaching a public speaking class. And then Amy Torrey is going to teach a women's self-defense class. So those are some sort of a smattering of some of our new classes. We're excited about that. And lastly, one of the things that I really love about working for Ellsworth Adult Ed is being able to work with local business people to think outside the box about how to provide relevant and accessible training. And so I don't know how many of you know Nicole Willette from Breaking Even, but she and I were talking about how to reach people, and so she's going to offer an online marketing course, and it's going to be through video conferencing from people's homes. She's probably going to use Zoom, so she'll teach people how to use that platform and then offer this training over the course of the fall. And so it's sort of an experiment with trying to do something different, so we're excited about that. And I have, I'm working with Kelly Bellis from Horizon Surveying. It's not quite the whole name of his business, but he's going to be offering 6 Saturdays a class called Global Mapper 101. And that's an introduction to working with geospatial data. And we're working with the company that developed this global mapper to, we have secured a free license for that, so people can explore that as an option, which may help them with employment and other purposes. So those are some of the things happening this summer with us. Any questions? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Annie.
Can I interject just a second? This one gentleman has to move on, so I don't know if it's timely or not, but I'd like to introduce you to Ethan Edmondson, our English teacher. Sorry, Mr. Davis. I know I'm out of order.
I'm not here, you don't have to do them.
It's okay. I keep going.
I think it's quite all right.
Yes, Mr. Newey, you gotta use the microphone. Come on over this way, please.
While Mr. Newitt is making his way over to the podium, the gentleman that's going to be introduced is one of the teachers that you have approved in a previous meeting who was unable to be here. He's here tonight to be introduced to the board and to our general public.
Like
So,
a
Mr. Newitt,
good
go
music
ahead.
teacher that he is, he's got to go direct a band somewhere. And he's really out the door. He said, I got to be out here by 7:15, so I've got just a couple minutes. But we're very, very pleased to have Ethan. The K-4 and 9-12 teachers were with me as part of the interview process. And Mr. McCluskey as well. And we made, I think, a very fine selection. Very pleased to have him. This guy's ready to move that band like right up there, and that's what I'm looking for. We typically don't make you speak, but if you'd like to, you can say something.
First, I'd like to thank Mr. Higgins, Mr. Newman, Mr. McCluskey, and the board for the selection, hiring, and approval. I'm really excited. One of the things that really drew me to Ellsworth is that I've actually been working, I guess, behind the scenes for the last 5-ish years in Ellsworth. I've been doing a youth orchestra over at the Grand, the Eastern Maine Pops Orchestra. I don't know if any of you have ever been there or seen it, but I've been doing that for quite a bit, and I've been teaching music for 7 years now, and so I'm really excited to be hired here at Ellsworth, and I really cannot wait to get started. I've met a few of the staff already, and they've been telling me about their own personal children who are involved with the music department, so I'm ready to go. I kind of wish it was September 5th already.
He's been teaching
Well,
in Searsport for the last several years, and he stole it. So
We're excited to have you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations,
Thank
and
you.
welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mr. Higgins,
I believe it's my turn.
I do.
I have a number of items to cover in my report, and I'll try to do them briefly, but some of them have already been referenced in other reports. First is an update on the repairs from the lightning strike that occurred at EEMS. You heard Mr. McCluskey speak about it. First and foremost, I'd like to commend our custodial maintenance staff for all the work that they're doing in semi-lightened areas. They do a great job as it is, but it's a little bit more of a challenge for them this year, but they're still doing a fantastic job. What we're down to right now, and I spoke with Mr. Gray earlier, the part necessary for us to move forward with the full repair is on back order. We're expecting to receive it either tomorrow or Thursday, and we're in hopes that with the installation and calibration of that part, all will be restored. Certainly we'll try to keep you updated on that, and hopefully our custodial staff will be able to work in full light moving forward. You also heard referenced some of the construction, renovation, and maintenance work that's taking place over the school system. Again, just recognize our custodial and maintenance staff for the outstanding work in the schools and on the grounds over the summer recess. You know, with the exception of the biomedical lab at HCTC that you heard Mrs. Bowles reference, we're on schedule for all tasks to be completed before the students arrive in early September. And one thing I would really like you to take a look at the next time you ride by Ellsworth High School, you'll notice that we have started to change the color of the trim paint and exterior doors to a deep burgundy. If you haven't noticed it already, it very much jumps out at you. It's very striking. So as the rest of the school year goes on, in the next couple of years, you're going to see that original blue color transition to a school color. Would also like to recognize our school administrators that have just presented, and some who have not presented, and our teachers in the system for their incredible work over the summer on the ongoing transition to a proficiency-based model, the work on the scope and sequence on our ELA curriculum, and in developing standards-based rubrics and assessments. Work over summer months is critical, and I know some of you have taught and recognize that, but it's critical to continue moving our school department forward and to continue to provide the best possible program for the students that we serve. So it's certainly to a credit to our administrators and teachers for the great work they've done over the summer, and you'll be seeing and hearing about the fruits of their labor as the school year moves forward. On the community connection front, would like to say on behalf of the school department, staff, and students, express appreciation to Star 97.7 FM, First National Bank, and TJ Maxx for hosting and sponsoring the 3rd annual Pack the Backpack promotion this past Saturday. You know, over the past 3 years that this event has been in place, it's grown, and it's really a great example of how the community supports our schools, and the schools have an opportunity to participate in the community and with the business community. Certainly have to mention our generous business people. Would like to also express thanks, it goes without saying, to all the generous people who came by the Pack the Backpack promotion and donated supplies to support our students as they prepare for the upcoming school year. The next two items I think are important not just for the board and our viewing audience here, but for the members of the public who are watching this on television. As you know, with the Route 1A project that's been taking place over the past several months, we have a new entrance to Ellsworth High School. And we're mentioning it this evening because we're starting to receive a lot of inquiries about the entrance, and specifically, how is this going to work? The most simple answer is as follows. The high school itself can be accessed by vehicular traffic only by the new Lee Jock Street entrance, which is located where Route 1A and Forest Avenue intersect, right at the north end of the EBS property. The old entrance will serve in two capacities. One would be as emergency vehicle access in the event that it's necessary. The second would be as an access road to the lower parking lot next to the baseball field and tennis courts for events that take place there. We're still working with Down East Railroad and the city to determine what type of access that we can have to accommodate our students who walk, and also accommodate our classes for physical education who need to go back and forth across that railroad crossing. My understanding is we are going to have access to the key and the lock, and we will have the ability to, under supervision, make sure our students are able to get safely back and forth. One question that's been asked many times is, when is the new light at the new intersection going to start functioning? I haven't gotten an answer to that yet. My understanding is, at the very latest, it will be before the first day of school. So, if people have questions on that, they can certainly call Mr. Clifford at the high school, or they can give us a call at the central office. Is that okay, Mr. Clifford? The other project I would like to mention is one that Mr. McCluskey mentioned a little bit earlier, or maybe it was Mr. Newitt that mentioned it. It may have been both of them. The new Forest Avenue drainage project. This is a heads up for all of our parents and anyone who's going to be visiting EEMS at the beginning of the school year. In a few days, and we should have a date for the start of construction, work will be done to upgrade the city's drainage system running from the north end of the Mill Mall across Pond Avenue, right down the middle of the EEMS baseball field. And again, if you're a baseball fan, you know that right down the middle is the strength of your team: catchers, pitcher, shortstop, second baseman, center fielder. Right down the middle of the field, across the driveway and down next to the stormwater filtration system. The work is going to start within a few days, and our understanding is that work will occur throughout the day, with the exception of morning drop-off time and afternoon pickup time. So we certainly ask our parents and other visitors to EEMS in the early part of the school year to be prepared and to be patient for construction equipment during the construction period. But certainly by working together, we'll make sure that we're all able to get through it successfully. Okay. Included in my written report to you are a number of pieces of information with regard to nominations to the board and administrative recommendations, which we will take up in a few minutes. But I would like to mention a number of new staff that have been hired that do not require board approval. We have a number of ed techs who have been hired. At Ellsworth High School, Kristen Hardison, who formerly worked for us, is returning as an ed tech 3 in special education. At EEMS, we have 5 new ed techs working in special education: Chelsea Bull, Barbara Bayer, Heather Holt, Samantha Hanson, and Anna Pazzulo. John McKechnie, science teacher at Ellsworth High School, is going to serve as our boys JV soccer coach at Ellsworth High School. And Holly Whittick will be serving a long-term substitute term at EHS for English to start the fall. We did have one letter of resignation that was received today. That is Lorenzo Severance, who was a custodian at the high school. He is moving on. We'll be filling that position. And I have listed a number of vacancies on your report, which I'd like to mention publicly as well. Special education teacher, K through 4 at EEMS. Title I literacy position at EEMS. A licensed clinical social worker position at the high school. An ed tech position each at EEMS and EHS. Boys JV soccer coach that Mr. Newitt mentioned earlier. And we now have 2 custodial positions to fill, one for the resignation and one for a retiring staff member who will be departing at the end of September. With regard to final announcements, some of this information has already been out there, but our new staff orientation has been scheduled for Tuesday, August 29th. That will be at EEMS. We'll invite our new staff there for the day. First 2 staff days for our staff will be Wednesday and Thursday, August 30th and 31st. And we talked at our leadership team meeting this morning, about the first day. The first day there will be a breakfast served, and Mr. Daly will be sending information out to you to let you know about the times that he is hoping you can come in and help serve. First day for students in pre-kindergarten through grade 9 is Tuesday, September 5th, and the first day for all of our students is Wednesday, September 6th. And that concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
May I just add one comment about the Pack the Backpack promotion? I know you were there on Saturday morning with Michael Hale and Natalie Knox and from the radio station, and Brenda was there, and Joanne. And I stopped by too, and it was great to see all these people dropping off so many very much needed supplies for kids. You know, when the school year starts, kids are expected to bring so much stuff with them. You know, it's from pencils and pens, and there's a whole specific list, which I believe is on our website. A lot of families can't afford all these items, or it's a struggle to be able to procure them. So this is a really important thing. And if for members of our viewing public, if you missed the opportunity to donate anything that day and you would have liked to have done so, we can still do it. Is that correct?
That is accurate.
Yeah. So what's the best way to?
If we have individuals who would like to avail themselves of that opportunity, I would suggest that they contact the main offices at each one of our schools,
Right.
or the district office, and
Yeah.
we can help them and make arrangements to donate.
Yeah, because although we got a lot of things on Saturday, there's still a need for more. And if the community is willing to come through, then it would be really helpful. So, that's all. Thanks.
Committee reports? Thank you, Mr. Higgins, by the way. Committee reports?
Committee reports, the policy committee did meet, and we just reviewed, policies that have already been for a first read and, made some minor changes, but they're
Okay.
ready for the second read.
Okay.
And
And finance has met, and we'll be discussing that later. And personnel has met, and we'll
Yes.
be discussing that later. So we've all
That's correct.
been busy the last month, haven't we?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Old business, none. J, new business, the second read of policies. So Kelly, the first one, or Mr. Higgins, I don't know, is JJIB 5A co-curricular activities.
I can address that if you'd like. JJIA and JJIB are our current co- and extracurricular policies, co-curricular activities policies for high school and the middle school. Policy Committee has met on 2 occasions. One, to discuss a proposed change to those policies, which upon further discussion, it was determined that we wanted to maintain the policies with their existing language, maintain the same eligibility standards that we've had in the past. So what we would be doing is, you don't have to take action on this, but we're also at the start of our triennial policy review, where we review all of our policies. We would just add these 2 policies to the list of those that have already been reviewed, and as the policy committee continues to work, we'll just add to those with our review.
Okay. So should we do a motion to accept them, and then we'll just say that we've reviewed them?
Yep, you can do it. That would be fine.
Okay.
I move that we accept the second read of policies JJIB and JJIA on co-curricular activities as recommended by the policy committee.
I second that.
Discussion? All those in favor? The next one is the sun protection sunscreen use by students.
I'd be happy to take that. Policy committee's met on this policy on 2 occasions, and this came about from a conversation that you as a board had at a previous workshop, where prior to this coming school year, the position of the school department and our practice has been not to permit sunscreen to be used at our schools. With some information that's been received and reviewed from the American Academy of Pediatrics, the United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, along with some discussion at the policy committee level, it was determined that it made sense to put a policy in place that would permit the use of sunscreen by students and also encourage some other sun-safe behaviors. And that's the draft of the policy that you have in front of you. In essence, what it provides is the ability for students to be permitted to wear articles of sun protective clothing, including hats and sunglasses, while participating in outdoor school activities. And we put a piece of language in there that said that this policy does not supersede any other policy in the school or student handbook regarding hats or sunglasses, for example, inside the building. It also talks about the use of sunscreen and lip balm. Again, this is probably the biggest change. Policy says, with written authorization from a parent or guardian, students will be permitted to carry and use non-aerosol sunscreen and/or sun protective lip balm. Due to potential allergies, the Ellsworth School Department and Ellsworth School Department staff will not supply sunscreen for students or apply sunscreen on students. Students will not be permitted to share sunscreen with other students, and parents who authorize their children to carry and use sunscreen are encouraged to teach them how to apply sunscreen properly. Also included in the information that was reviewed was accessibility to water and shade, and we've included a provision in there that when there's a concern with overexposure to the sun while participating in outdoor activities at the school or on school grounds, students will be given access to shade and/or water. Put a piece in there that school staff will be encouraged to model sun-safe behaviors and practices, which I believe many of them probably already do. And with regard to resources, we thought the best thing to do would be, upon request, to make available to parents resources regarding sun-safe practices and behaviors. Certainly that could come in the form of providing links to websites through our own website, or providing information to parents where they can also access this information in other means. And there's also provision in there, because this is brand new. Certainly there may be some bumps along the way with implementing this policy, where the school board will authorize administration to develop rules and procedures as necessary to successfully implement the policy.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the second read and adopt sun protection and sunscreen use by students policy as recommended by the policy committee.
Second.
Discussion.
I have a question. You referenced parents will provide written, we will send said documentation home to parents?
We will develop a form to send home so that parents can authorize. And again, at the policy committee level, that was one of the discussions we had.
Right.
You know, there is a concern because you may have a student who is allergic. We want parents to be able to provide authorization through a form that we provide so that we have something in hand.
Perfect.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Okay, acknowledgement of personnel committee's action on behalf of the board. Wanted to introduce another new teacher, was it?
Well, the one teacher that we were hoping to
Okay.
introduce, because he had to depart early, has already been introduced. And we will again have some other teachers to come forward at the next meeting. But we do have 3 names to bring forward to the board this evening that have already been confirmed by the personnel committee. Unfortunately, none of the 3 were able to be here this evening, so we're going to invite them to our next meeting.
Okay.
But we'd like to present them anyway. First, would like to present to you the name Stephen Hunt, a mathematics teacher at Ellsworth High School. As you can see from the biography that was provided to you, very strong educational background in mathematics, including bachelor's, master's, and doctor of philosophy and mathematics education. Also, a wealth of experience as a secondary level instructor, and also has done a lot of work in mathematics research, work on an internet mathematics consortium, and has worked most recently for Cisco Systems and Eastern Maine Medical Center. He impressed the interview committee with his education and knowledge of mathematics, his varied experiences, including his previous teaching experience. His education background and experiences suit him well for the math vacancy that we have. His references are strong, and the committee believes he'll be a solid addition to the high school math faculty. And I would ask if the board would like to take these acknowledgements up individually, or would you like to do them as a group?
As a group.
As a group, I'm fine.
As a group is fine, okay.
The second individual I'd like to present to you this evening would be Heidi Thacker, for a speech and language pathologist at EEMS. Similar to Mr. Hunt, she has a very strong background educationally, bachelor's and master's in speech and hearing sciences, and a wealth of experience since 1988. Through the current year has worked as a speech language pathologist in a number of different school districts. Again, she impressed the interview committee with her experience, and again, she has worked across the pre-K through grade 12 grade span, so she has experience with students all across that level. And her references are also very strong, and the committee believes that she'll be a very strong addition to the staff as well. And, you know, she's replacing a teacher who had 30-plus years' experience. And third teacher to present tonight is special education teacher at Ellsworth Middle School. His name is Donald Pierce. Mr. Pierce, again, educational background and experience, 20-plus years experience as an educator, most of that time in Massachusetts, but in some varied positions, resource room, self-contained room, and some alternative programs. He impressed the interview committee with his varied experience working in the field of special education and alternative education, solid knowledge of the field and laws regarding special education, and his experience in the various areas impressed the committee as well. This will be a veteran addition to the staff at EEMS. So your Personnel Committee has already confirmed the superintendent's nomination. What you're being requested to do this evening is to vote to acknowledge the Personnel Committee's actions on your behalf.
I make a motion that we acknowledge the hiring of these 3 people who have been approved by our Personnel Committee on our behalf.
I second that.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Consideration of recommendations for administrative positions.
Yes, and for the board, we have a recommendation for 2 new administrators this evening. First, would like to present to you our candidate for the Assistant Principal Athletic Director position at Ellsworth Elementary Middle School. Present to you Erica Gabbianelli. Mrs. Gabbianelli impressed the interview committee with her experiences in teaching, athletic administration, and her enthusiasm for the position and for administration. In addition to her position as a middle-level classroom teacher, she has also served as her previous school's athletic administrator since 2007 and served as the assistant principal in that school since 2011. Solid knowledge and experience in proficiency-based educational models and in school improvement and in administering athletic programs. Her references are solid, and Mr. Newitt and Mr. McCluskey believe that she will be a positive addition to the administrative team at EEMS. So the recommendation to you as a board is to approve this recommendation of Erica Gabbianelli, Assistant Principal Athletic Director at Ellsworth Elementary Middle School. And Ms. Gabbianelli is here this evening.
I make a motion that we approve the hiring of, please one more time.
Erica Gabbianelli.
Thank you, Erica Gabbianelli as Assistant Principal Athletic Director at EEMS.
I second that.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Congratulations.
We're meeting tomorrow.
And the second administrative position that we're pleased to bring a candidate forward is for our Director of Facilities and Maintenance. Should be a familiar face to most of you. I would like to present Charles Turnbull. Many of you know Chuck. Chuck has worked for the Ellsworth School Department since 2007. Prior to that, he spent a number of years working as a supervisor and manager in custodial and security services at Jackson Laboratory. Chuck impressed the interview committee with his supervisory experiences in management and supervision and maintenance, custodial and security capacities at Jackson Lab, and his history since he's been here in the school department. Since 2015, he has served as a head custodian on the evening shift for our school department. We know Chuck is well respected by staff. He's task and detail oriented and has great familiarity with our facilities, operations, and systems in the school department, and he was the unanimous selection of our committee. So I would like to recommend to you Chuck Turnbull as the new Facilities Maintenance Director in the Ellsworth School Department, and ask you to approve the recommendation.
I make a motion that we approve Charles Turnbull as our supervisory, as worded it, facilities and maintenance director, as you presented.
I second that.
Discussion? Having none? All those in favor?
We all feel the same way.
Yeah.
Consideration of lunch price increase for 2017-18.
I believe you received this information in your packet, and Mr. Daly is here this evening if you have any questions with regard to the price equity tool that we're required to use. And if you don't have any questions, Mr. Daly is still here.
In front of you, in your packet, you have that price equity tool, and that's mandated by the state that we do that every year, and it's also audited. So it recommends that we do increase and go up to that price listed at $285. So that's what we did in both the middle school, which is up a dime, and the high school, which is up a nickel.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So is it a requirement that we follow what that tool says, or is it just a recommendation?
Requirement.
It is a requirement.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Any other-
we're ready for a motion?
Mm-hmm.
I move that we allow, adopt, what's the correct word, Dan? Approve the increase in lunch prices to $2.75, which will be an increase, $2.85, excuse me, which will be an increase for each school respectively.
I second that.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Thank you. A couple things while I'm up here. One of the big things that's happening that we're working on, and we're already almost ready to click the switch, and thanks to April's group, we're going to set up an online application for free and reduce so that families from their comfort of their home, or if they're having a hard time getting in, will be able to go on and fill out an application for free and reduce, and it'll be downloaded into Infinite Campus and then into NutriKids. Of course, my goal is always to get above that 50% mark, and we get so close you can taste it, like 48.9%. So we're real close, and that opens up a wealth of grants and fresh fruit and vegetable programs and that type of thing. And just to recap on also last year for stats, increase at the middle school breakfast program went from about 28,943 up to 41,549 for the year between 15-16 to last year. And a lot of that was because we had the kids going out for a morning recess and then coming in and eating breakfast. So that was a big boost for our system. Wellness committee, a lot of you are members, and we've been firing that baby up, and we're continuing on that process. And one of the big focuses that we're working on is try to get more involved in student wellness and staff wellness, also to keep them well-rounded. We get reviewed this year in November 13th, we get our state review. Backpack program that we have is a little bit different than the backpack program. We deliver or help set up for the students some foods that they can bring home for the weekend. And we had 23 students last year, and we're going to probably have a little bit more this year coming out. And I think that's about it. Any questions?
Ray, was your 23 students, was that K-12?
K-12? No, K-4, K-5,
K8.
K-8.
K-8.
Yeah, mostly the middle school.
Is there an opportunity for that to be expanded into the high school as well?
Now that you say, yes, there is, but it's not so much set up that way. It's set up a little bit different. We have a room that's set aside that used to be the teacher's room or something that has no questions asked pantry. And the high school kids, if they think they need something to eat for the weekend, come in. We have bags that are donated by Good Shepherd, and they come in and help themselves to shelf-stable foods so they can kind of bring those home and survive until they get back to school on Monday.
And items may be donated for use in either building?
Yes, ma'am.
By bringing them to the front office of either building?
Yeah, high school or the middle school. We can work in the middle school. We have Good Shepherd who also goes shopping weekly. They have volunteers that pack these bags and bring them into our kitchen. And then Tim and I, have been delivering a bunch for littler kids, and then we have some kids have it in their actual backpack to bring home Thursday or Friday.
Thank you so much for that effort.
Yeah. Any other questions?
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I will be calling on you for that September 30th.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Be there.
August 30.
August 30th.
Yeah.
August 30.
Discussion and consideration of cooperative team proposal.
This item is a follow-up to the discussion you had at your last workshop meeting with regard to cooperative football team agreement with RSU 24 Sumner High School. As you know, prior to this year, with the preliminary status of the program and the ability to play below a class that's related to enrollment, we've had a successful cooperative team agreement with Sumner. With what we expected to be changes in the enrollment and classification in the MPA level, we believed that we would need to cease having that opportunity this year moving forward. Prior to the MPA changing their classification and enrollment levels, what would have been in place is you take the combined enrollment of the two schools and place the team in competition with schools that are that size. That would put our students at a significant competitive disadvantage, and also in a position where they're playing programs that have been in place for a long time and have much larger enrollment than we do. What happened over the last spring and over the summer, the Maine Principals Association changed that enrollment responsibility and requirement to allow a prorated enrollment based upon percentage of students who are at Ellsworth High School, percentage of students at Sumner High School who participate. Take that prorated enrollment and make that the class that you play in. So it gave us the opportunity to look back into having a cooperative team agreement once again with RSU 24. There is an interest on the part of both schools. The coaching staff is interested in it. We do have some students from Sumner who have an interest in participating. So we're asking you tonight to authorize us to enter into a cooperative agreement with RSU 24 for a football program, where that agreement will be reviewed annually, and in particular reviewed after 2 years, specifically with regard to enrollments and any reclassification by the Maine Principals Association. You know, as we discussed in your workshop, the Principals Association reviews and potentially changes classification every 2 years, and the concern we had was if classification rules changed and put us into the situation where our students would be put at a significant competitive disadvantage or concerns for their health and safety, we would cease having the cooperative program. Also included in that would be, as you asked, to make sure that we have that written into an agreement and that all students who participate know going in with written authorization from their parents that 2 years for certain, after that we review it.
I make a motion that we allow the continuation of the cooperative football program as you have described.
I second that.
Discussion? Hearing none. Vote.
Thank you.
Review and approval of 2017-18 student handbooks.
I believe members of the board received 3 of the 4. I believe you have Ellsworth High School, HCTC, and Ellsworth Middle School. I know Mr. McCluskey was finishing up with Ellsworth Elementary School, and what I can tell you is the content of the EES handbook is reflective of the content of EMS. So what we're asking for this evening is approval from the board for the content of the handbooks, if you've had an opportunity to review them. And certainly, we know that there may be some places where some items need to be adjusted due to staffing changes and so forth. But we'd be looking for approval of the handbooks as presented.
I make a motion to approve the 2017-2018 student handbooks as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Consideration of revised fiscal year 18 Ellsworth School Department budget.
And that was a meeting with the Finance Committee, so would the Finance Committee members like to address that, or would you like me to do so? I can do that. What I provided to you in your packet were 3 summary sheets from the budget. One was from the budget that was approved back the first time around before the state legislature adjourned and added more money. And that was a budget that reflected an increase of 1.5% on the expenditure side and a little over 3% to the local appropriation. With the legislature approving additional funding for the Department of Education and the City of Ellsworth receiving $333,287, we were very pleased, and again, through our budget process, we anticipated that this was going to come. One of the pieces that went along with that additional state funding by statute is that half of it must be used to reduce the local tax burden. The other thing that it's important to mention, not just for you as a board, but also for members of our community, in order to find the additional dollars for education, the legislature looked for other places in the budget as a means of sources of funds to support that. One of the pieces was the homestead exemption for property taxes. The City of Ellsworth took a hit on a change in that reimbursement to the tune of $90,000. So we did get more money for education, but it came at the expense of some other areas. As you also remember, when the budget was approved, it was approved with an article that provided multiple options for use of the additional funds, for tax reduction, to increase expenditures as approved by the school board, or to put the money into a reserve account for future use, or any combination of said. The City Council met, and what they have opted to do is to take the majority of the funds and apply them to tax reduction and allocate to the schools $38,321.85 to increase expenditures. The Finance Committee met and looked at this, and the recommendation that was made by administration was to take $35,000 of that and apply it to the CTE line to support the renovation of the biomedical lab. And as we discussed at our last meeting, from the time that we crafted the budget till the time that we actually get into the building and started doing the work, we found out it was going to be more expensive. This $35,000 should address those costs. The balance of that, $3,321.85, the recommendation is to put them under the regular instruction line to support the purchase of math materials for our new math resources. The two extra sheets I provided to you, one was to show you what it would look like just by adding the money as a block amount. The other one would be to show you what it would look like when the money was actually applied to the two areas that I just described. So, with that being said, with those dollars added in, our school budget now has an increase of 1.73% on the expenditure side. However, the local appropriation, local taxpayer responsibility to support our schools is increasing by less than 0.5% over last school year. The Finance Committee voted to approve that revised budget and recommend it to the full board for approval.
I make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the Finance Committee for the expenditures of the new funds.
I second that.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. I knew you could explain that a lot better than I could.
I've practiced a little bit.
Discussion and consideration of lease.
Okay. This is one of those items that could potentially be a lengthy discussion, but I think we can encapsulate it into a very short one. You've all been provided a copy of the draft lease with Lenovo Finance for 780 Chromebooks for use in our schools over the next 3 years. As I indicated to the Finance Committee when we met last week, the agreement is very good. It's very much a boilerplate language. However, in reviewing the agreement with our attorneys, there were some areas and some terms that we wanted to get clarification on. My report to you this evening is that we are at a point where we have been able to clarify and verify all of the questions and concerns that we had, so that the amount of risk that you would normally take when entering into a lease is the amount of risk that we have experienced. The amount of exposure that we have is acceptable in terms of a lease, and what I mean by that is so long as we don't default on the lease and we hold up our end of the bargain, things will work out just fine. A couple of pieces that do remain to be finalized are, when you look at the lease right now, as it is written between Lenovo Finance and the Ellsworth School Department. We're working with our attorneys as to whether that should be Ellsworth School Department or City of Ellsworth, because it is a tax-exempt municipal lease. And what that's going to require is a conversation tomorrow morning with both attorneys to make sure that we have the appropriate title. There's a little difference of perspective on that. That's a minor hurdle to overcome. The only other place is, it's in section 13 with the indemnification clause. The original draft that you as a board received provided language that would require us to defend Lenovo Finance or reimburse them for any claims against them. That's not a set of terms that we were willing to accept. So what we have done is counter-proposed language that includes an indemnity clause which would protect them. And again, they're a finance company. They do not take possession of the Chromebooks. They do not hold the Chromebooks. The Chromebooks are transitioned to us from the supplier. Lenovo Finance is simply the vehicle for the lease and the purchase of these Chromebooks. So they have protections in there so that if something were to go wrong with the computers, something were to malfunction with the computers, they are not the ones that would be held liable. It would either be the school department if it were our fault, or it would be the suppliers if it were a manufacturing defect. So that's written in, but we were also able to get indemnification for us that ensures that the language exists that we can, in the event of an issue with the machines, file a claim against the supplier and the manufacturer. That was not in the original version. That will be in there. The other piece that will be in there is some language that will implement Maine Tort Claims Act, which limits the school department's liability to $400,000. So those are the only remaining pieces to make this lease completely acceptable by us. So the vote that was sent to you, in the single line, I move that the vote entitled "Vote to Authorize $261,684.10 Lease Agreement for Computer Agreement" be approved in the form presented at this meeting. If we modify that motion to be approved substantially in the form presented to this meeting, that in essence provides board approval to enter into the lease and allows me the opportunity to finalize those variables that we just discussed.
All right. One motion. I move that we authorize the expenditure of $261,684.10 to lease agreement for the lease agreement for computer equipment as substantially presented.
Second.
Discussion?
If it's appropriate, I would like to add that the $261,000 amount, that includes the interest, and that's to be paid over a 3-year period. When you look at the amount that we pay on an annual basis, and this came up back during your budget discussions, you know, we expended over $150,000 annually for computers that we had previously. You know, we're talking $87,000 a year. So we're still providing the increased access to our students. We're meeting all of our students' needs. And I know Mrs. Clifford discussed that with the board and the finance committee earlier in the year, in a more efficient manner.
And how many computers is it again?
780 computers, and at the end of the 3-year period, they become ours for $1.
Yeah, so it's like $120 a year per
It's
device.
it's a good bargain.
Yeah.
Good value.
So after the 3 years, will they still be usable? I mean, will they still be up to date enough for our students to use them?
They may be, but certainly, you know, as technology improves over time, you know, they may still be usable, but they may need to be upgraded. But for the value that we have, at the very least, they certainly could be either resold or recycled, and we would very easily get the $1 per unit back that we would pay for them. And certainly, moving forward, we would want to make sure that we had the most current and most appropriate technology for our students.
Yep.
But again, I think this is a good value. I think the lease agreement with the changes that we discussed tonight is appropriate, and I think it will provide good opportunities for our students and staff.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Item K, calendar and announcements. Meeting schedule. School Board Workshop, August 29th, 2017, Elsa School Department Conference Room, 6 p.m. If you haven't gotten your board survey back to me, I'd like to have it sometime soon.
So the topic for that would be the board evaluation and also a brief
Yep.
discussion on budget.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Policy Committee meeting to be announced?
One thing the policy committee discussed was waiting until we got an annual report from Maine School Management of new policy requirements, and then developing a policy meeting schedule that can also incorporate the triennial review of all of our policies.
And school board meeting Tuesday, September 12th, 2017, City Council Chambers, 6:30 p.m. Item L, adjournment.
Having no further business, I move that we adjourn the board meeting.
I second that.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
7:57.
Paul?